Chapter 17. There was a man of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Micah. He said to his mother, "The 1100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you did utter a curse, and did also speak it in my ears, behold, the silver is with me, I took it." His mother said, "Blessed be my son of the Lord." He restored the 1100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, "I most assuredly dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son, to make an engraved image and a molten image. Now therefore I will restore it to you." When he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver, and gave them to the founder, who made of it an engraved image and a molten image, and it was in the house of Micah. The man Micah had a house of gods, and he made an ephod and teraphim, and consecrated one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. There was a young man out of Bethlehem, Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. The man departed out of the city, out of Bethlehem, Judah, to sojourn where he could find a place, and he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah as he traveled. Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" He said to him, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah, and I go to sojourn where I may find a place." Micah said to him, "Dwell with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver by the year, and a suit of clothing, and your food." So the Levite went in. The Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man was to him as one of his sons. Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micah. Then said Micah, "Now I know that the Lord will do me good, seeing I have a Levite to be my priest." Chapter 18. In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in, for to that day their inheritance had not fallen to them among the tribes of Israel. The children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their whole number, men of valor, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to search it, and they said to them, "Go, search the land." They came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. When they were by the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man, the Levite, and they turned aside and said to him, "Who brought you here? And what do you do in this place? And what have you here?" He said to them, "Thus and thus has Micah dealt with me, and he has hired me, and I am become his priest." They said to him, "Ask counsel, we pray you, of God, that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous." The priest said to them, "Go in peace, your way is before the Lord." Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people who were therein, how they lived in security, after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure. For there was none in the land, possessing authority, that might put them to shame in anything, and they were far from the Sidonians, and had no dealings with any man. They came to their brothers, to Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brothers said to them, "What do you say?" They said, "Arise, and let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And are you still? Don't be slothful to go and to enter in to possess the land. When you go, you shall come to a people secure, and the land is large, for God has given it into your hand, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth." There set forth from there of the family of the Danites, out of Zorah and out of Eshtaol, 600 men girt with weapons of war. They went up and encamped in Kiriath Jearim in Judah. Therefore they called that place Mahanadan. To this day, behold, it is behind Kiriath Jearim. They passed there to the hill country of Ephraim, and came to the house of Micah. Then the 5 men who went to spy out the country of Laish answered and said to their brothers, "Do you know that there is in these houses an ephod, and a teraphim, and an engraved image, and a molten image? Now therefore consider what you have to do." They turned aside there and came into the house of the young man the Levite, even to the house of Micah, and asked him of his welfare. The 600 men girt with their weapons of war who were of the children of Dan stood by the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who went to spy out the land went up, and came in there, and took the engraved image, and the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. And the priest stood by the entrance of the gate with the 600 men girt with the weapons of war. When these went into Micah's house, and fetched the engraved image, the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image, the priest said to them, What are you doing? They said to him, Hold your peace, lay your hand on your mouth, and go with us, and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be a priest to the house of one man, or to be a priest to a tribe and a family in Israel? The priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and the teraphim and the engraved image, and went in the midst of the people. So they turned and departed, and put the little ones and the cattle and the goods before them. When they were a good way from the house of Micah, the men who were in the houses near to Micah's house were gathered together, and overtook the children of Dan. They cried to the children of Dan. They turned their faces and said to Micah, What ails you that you come with such a company? He said, You have taken away my gods which I made, and the priest, and are gone away, and what do I have more? And how then do you say to me, What ails you? The children of Dan said to him, Don't let your voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows fall on you and you lose your life, with the lives of your household. The children of Dan went their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. They took that which Micah had made, and the priest whom he had, and came to Laish, to a people quiet and secure, and struck them with the edge of the sword, and they burnt the city with fire. There was no deliverer, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with any man, and it was in the valley that lies by Beth Rehob. They built the city and lived in it. They called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born to Israel. However, the name of the city was Laish at the first. The children of Dan set up for themselves the engraved image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. So they set up Micah's engraved image which he made, all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. Chapter 19. It happened in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the far side of the hill country of Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. His concubine played the prostitute against him, and went away from him to her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there for the space of 4 months. Her husband arose and went after her, to speak kindly to her, to bring her again, having his servant with him, and a couple of donkeys. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the young lady saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. His father-in-law, the young lady's father, retained him, and he stayed with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there. It happened on the 4th day, that they arose early in the morning, and he rose up to depart. And the young lady's father said to his son-in-law, Strengthen your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward you shall go your way. So they sat down, and ate and drank, both of them together. And the young lady's father said to the man, Please stay all night, and let your heart be merry. The man rose up to depart, but his father-in-law urged him, and he lodged there again. He arose early in the morning on the 5th day to depart, and the young lady's father said, Please strengthen your heart, and stay until the day declines. And they ate, both of them. When the man rose up to depart, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the young lady's father, said to him, Look, now the day draws toward evening. Please stay all night. Look, the day grows to an end. Stay here, that your heart may be merry, and tomorrow you can leave early on your way, that you may go home. But the man wouldn't stay that night, but he rose up and departed, and came over against Jebush. The same is Jerusalem. And there was with him a couple of donkeys saddled. His concubine also was with him. When they were there by Jebus, the day was far spent, and the servant said to his master, Please come and let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites and lodge in it. His master said to him, We won't turn aside into the city of a foreigner that is not of the children of Israel, but we will pass over to Gibeah. He said to his servant, Come and let us draw near to one of these places, and we will lodge in Gibeah or in Ramah. So they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down on them near to Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. They turned aside there to go in to lodge in Gibeah, and he went in, and sat down in the street of the city, for there was no man who took them into his house to lodge. Behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at evening. Now the man was of the hill country of Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gibeah, but the men of the place were Benjamites. He lifted up his eyes and saw the wayfaring man in the street of the city. And the old man said, Where are you going, and where have you come from? He said to him, We are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, to the farther side of the hill country of Ephraim. I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem, Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord, and there is no man who takes me into his house. Yet there is both straw and provender for our donkeys, and there is bread and wine also for me, and for your handmaid, and for the young man who is with your servants. There is no want of anything. The old man said, Peace be to you. Howsoever, let all your wants lie on me, only don't stay in the street. So he brought him into his house, and gave the donkeys food, and they washed their feet, and ate and drank. As they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain base fellows, beset the house round about, beating at the door. And they spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may know him. The man, the master of the house, went out to them, and said to them, No, my brothers, please don't act so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into my house. Don't do this folly. Behold, here is my daughter, a virgin, and his concubine. I will bring them out now, and you humble them, and do with them what seems good to you, but to this man don't do any such folly. But the men wouldn't listen to him. So the man laid hold on his concubine, and brought her forth to them, and they knew her, and abused her all the night until the morning, and when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day, and fell down at the door of the man's house where her lord was, until it was light. Her lord rose up in the morning, and opened the doors of the house, and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, Rise up, and let us be going. But none answered. Then he took her up on the donkey, and the man rose up, and went to his place. When he was come to his house, he took a knife, and laid hold on his concubine, and divided her, limb by limb, into 12 pieces, and sent her throughout all the borders of Israel. It was so that all who saw it said, There was no such deed done, nor seen, from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak. Chapter 20. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was assembled as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, to the Lord at Mizpah. The chiefs of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen who drew the sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. The children of Israel said, Tell us, how is this wickedness brought to pass? The Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered, I came into Gibeah that belongs to Benjamin, I and my concubine, to lodge. The men of Gibeah rose against me, and beset the house round about me by night. They thought to have killed me, and my concubine they raped, and she is dead. I took my concubine and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, you children of Israel, all of you, give here your advice and counsel. All the people arose as one man, saying, We will not any of us go to his tent, neither will any of us turn to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot, and we will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to get food for the people, that they may do, when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, according to all the folly that they have worked in Israel. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. The tribes of Israel sent men throughout all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, What wickedness is this that has happened among you? Now therefore deliver up the men, the base fellows who are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death, and put away evil from Israel. But Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. The children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities to Gibeah, to go out to battle against the children of Israel. The children of Benjamin were numbered on that day out of the cities 26,000 men who drew the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all this people there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Every one could sling stones at a hairbreadth and not miss. The men of Israel, besides Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men who drew swords. All of these were men of war. The children of Israel arose and went up to Bethel, and asked counsel of God. And they said, Who shall go up for us first to battle against the children of Benjamin? The Lord said, Judah shall go up first. The children of Israel rose up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. The men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel set the battle in array against them at Gibeah. The children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah, and destroyed down to the ground of the Israelites on that day 22,000 men. The people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves, and set the battle again in array in a place where they set themselves in array the first day. The children of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and they asked of the Lord, saying, Shall I draw near to battle against the children of Benjamin my brother? The Lord said, Go up against him. The children of Israel came near against the children of Benjamin the second day. Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day, and destroyed down to the ground of the children of Israel again 18,000 men. All these drew the sword. Then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came to Bethel, and wept, and sat there before the Lord, and fasted that day until evening, and they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. The children of Israel asked of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days, and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, Shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin my brother, or shall I cease? The Lord said, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver him into your hand. Israel set liers in wait against Gibeah round about. The children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day, and set themselves in array against Gibeah as at other times. The children of Benjamin went out against the people, and were drawn away from the city, and they began to strike and kill of the people as at other times, in the highways, of which one goes up to Bethel, and the other to Gibeah, in the field, about 30 men of Israel. The children of Benjamin said, They are struck down before us as at the first. But the children of Israel said, Let us flee and draw them away from the city to the highways. All the men of Israel rose up out of their place, and set themselves in array at Baal Tamar. And the liers in wait of Israel broke forth out of their place, even out of Mare Geba. There came over against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and the battle was sore, but they didn't know that evil was close on them. The Lord struck Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of Benjamin that day 25,100 men. All these drew the sword. So the children of Benjamin saw that they were struck, for the men of Israel gave place to Benjamin, because they trusted to the liers in wait whom they had set against Gibeah. The liers in wait hurried, and rushed on Gibeah, and the liers in wait drew themselves along, and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed sign between the men of Israel and the liers in wait was that they should make a great cloud of smoke rise up out of the city. The men of Israel turned in the battle, And Benjamin began to strike and kill of the men of Israel about 30 persons, for they said, Surely they are struck down before us as in the first battle. But when the cloud began to rise up out of the city in a pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the whole of the city went up in smoke to the sky. The men of Israel turned, and the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw that evil had come on them. Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel to the way of the wilderness. But the battle followed hard after them, and those who came out of the cities destroyed them in the midst of it. They enclosed the Benjamites round about, and chased them, and trod them down at their resting place, as far as over against Gibeah toward the sunrise. There fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All these were men of valor. They turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. And they gleaned of them in the highways 5,000 men, and followed after them to Gittim, and struck of them 2,000 men. So that all who fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and abode in the rock of Rimmon 4 months. The men of Israel turned again on the children of Benjamin, and struck them with the edge of the sword, both the entire city and the cattle, and all that they found. Moreover, all the cities which they found they set on fire.
Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself didn't baptize but his disciples, he left Judea and departed into Galilee. He needed to pass through Samaria, so he came to a city of Samaria called Sychar, near the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being tired from his journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, Give me a drink. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman therefore said to him, How is it that you, being a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, If you knew the gift of God, and who it is who says to you, Give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. The woman said to him, Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From where then have you that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well, and drank of it himself, as did his sons and his cattle? Jesus answered her, Everyone who drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never thirst again, but the water that I will give him will become in him a well of water, springing up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water, so that I don't get thirsty, neither come all the way here to draw. Jesus said to her, Go, call your husband and come here. The woman answered, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, You said well, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and he whom you now have is not your husband. This you have said truly. The woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. Jesus said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour comes when neither in this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship that which you don't know. We worship that which we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour comes, and now is, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeks such to be his worshippers. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, I know that Messiah comes, he who is called Christ. When he has come, he will declare to us all things. Jesus said to her, I am he, the one who speaks to you. At this his disciples came. They marveled that he was speaking with a woman, yet no one said, What are you looking for? Or, Why do you speak with her? So the woman left her water pot and went away into the city, and said to the people, Come, see a man who told me everything that I did. Can this be the Christ? They went out of the city and were coming to him. In the meanwhile the disciples urged him, saying, Rabbi, eat. But he said to them, I have food to eat that you don't know about. The disciples therefore said to one another, Has anyone brought him something to eat? Jesus said to them, My food is to do the will of him who sent me, and to accomplish his work. Don't you say, There are yet 4 months until the harvest. Behold, I tell you, lift up your eyes and look at the fields, that they are white for harvest already. He who reaps receives wages and gathers fruit to eternal life, that both he who sows and he who reaps may rejoice together. For in this the saying is true, one sows and another reaps. I sent you to reap that for which you haven't labored. Others have labored, and you have entered into their labor. From that city many of the Samaritans believed in him because of the word of the woman, who testified, "He told me everything that I did." So when the Samaritans came to him, they begged him to stay with them. He stayed there 2 days. Many more believed because of his word. They said to the woman, "Now we believe, not because of your speaking, for we have heard for ourselves and know that this indeed is the Christ, the Savior of the world." After the 2 days he went out from there and went into Galilee. For Jesus himself testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. So when he came into Galilee, the Galileans received him, having seen all the things that he did in Jerusalem at the feast, for they also went to the feast. Jesus came therefore again to Cana of Galilee, where he made the water into wine. There was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. When he heard that Jesus had come out of Judea into Galilee, he went to him, and begged him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Jesus therefore said to him, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will in no way believe." The nobleman said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "Go your way, your son lives." The man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him, and he went his way. As he was now going down, his servants met him and reported, saying, "Your child lives." So he inquired of them the hour when he began to get better. They said therefore to him, "Yesterday, at the 7th hour, the fever left him." So the father knew that it was at that hour in which Jesus said to him, "Your son lives." He believed, as did his whole house. This is again the second sign that Jesus did, having come out of Judea into Galilee. Psalm 104. Bless Yahweh, my soul. Yahweh, my God, you are very great. You are clothed with honor and majesty. He covers himself with light as with a garment. He stretches out the heavens like a curtain. He lays the beams of his chambers in the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot. He walks on the wings of the wind. He makes his messengers winds, his servants flames of fire. He laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be moved forever. You covered it with the deep as with a cloak. The waters stood above the mountains. At your rebuke they fled. At the voice of your thunder they hurried away. The mountains rose, the valleys sank down to the place which you had assigned to them. You have set a boundary that they may not pass over, that they don't turn again to cover the earth. He sends forth springs into the valleys. They run among the mountains. They give drink to every animal of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds of the sky nest by them. They sing among the branches. He waters the mountains from his chambers. The earth is filled with the fruit of your works. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and plants for man to cultivate, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. Wine that makes glad the heart of man, oil to make his face to shine, and bread that strengthens man's heart. Yahweh's trees are well watered, the cedars of Lebanon which he has planted. Where the bird makes their nest, the stork makes its home in the fir trees. The high mountains are for the wild goats, the rocks are a refuge for the rock badgers. He appointed the moon for seasons, the sun knows when to set. You make darkness, and it is night, in which all the animals of the forest prowl. The young lions roar after their prey, and seek their food from God. The sun rises, and they steal away, and lay down in their dens. Man goes forth to his work, to his labor until the evening. Yahweh, how many are your works? In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your riches. There is the sea, great and wide, in which are innumerable living things, both small and large animals. There the ships go, and Leviathan, whom you formed to play there. These all wait for you, that you may give them their food in due season. You give to them, they gather. You open your hand, they are satisfied with good. You hide your face, they are troubled. You take away their breath, they die, and return to the dust. You send forth your Spirit, they are created. You renew the face of the ground. Let the glory of Yahweh endure forever. Let Yahweh rejoice in his works. He looks at the earth, and it trembles. He touches the mountains, and they smoke. I will sing to Yahweh as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have any being. Let your meditation be sweet to him. I will rejoice in Yahweh. Let sinners be consumed out of the earth. Let the wicked be no more. Bless Yahweh, my soul. Praise Yah.
The poor person is shunned even by his own neighbor, but the rich person has many friends. He who despises his neighbor sins, but blessed is he who has pity on the poor. Don't they go astray who plot evil? But love and faithfulness belong to those who plan good. In all hard work there is profit, but the talk of the lips leads only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the folly of fools crowns them with folly.